And bonjour, this is Bruno, the Bruno and Darko show, talking about AI, biostatistic, and other things. Today, actually, we're going to talk about history also in a second. But last podcast, we were on Times Square. I was in New York City, and I'm back in San Francisco. Darko, good to see you.
Great to see you, Bruno. Was really great to be at the Times Square with you last time,
We did a random
and
walk. We
yeah,
did a
we did
random
a
walk at
random
Times Square.
walk. Yeah,
And today, by the way, I might ask our producer, Shahir Sheikh, who's keeping us organized, to jump in and to say a few things. But today, no, that's not me, although yeah, with a purple kind of turban, maybe it could be. I think historically, do you know who that is? I think historically the turban was purple. I'm
oh,
going off of a limb here. Who is that good-looking fellow? His
I
first name
really have no
Leonardo.
idea.
The year is 1202. 1202, a while back.
It, oh,
This is this is
it's
Mr. Fibonacci,
oh,
Fibonacci himself, Mr. Fibonacci. So
Mr. Fibonacci.
we're going to talk about the Fibonacci number tomorrow. Fibonacci Day. Happy Fibonacci Day to everybody. And now, what is Fibonacci? Well, so we're going to talk about a little bit of that, and then we're going to talk about the very, very first. It's a historical day today. We talk about history. We're going to talk about the very first clinical trial. So the audience already knows what was the very first clinical trial and the date. Post it, and maybe you'll win something, right? But before that, is that true, Darko, that Fibonacci came up with a Fibonacci sequence because of rabbits?
Yeah, as far as my knowledge goes, some of his first research and the significant portion of discovery of Fibonacci numbers goes with studying the rabbits and the sequences that
So,
the
who
rabbits
paid
form.
him in 1202 to study the speed of reproduction to rabbits? And he didn't have any more important problem to work on?
Yeah, I mean that's very difficult to understand.
No,
I
but maybe it
think.
was very important because if you don't control the rabbits, they take over all the agriculture and there's famine.
Oh, yeah, that could be one of the reasons.
But
So
but why calculate it when why not just kill the rabbits? Because we know they're reproducing very fast, kind of exponentially. That's the point of his series. But what the need to know precisely and to try to model that speed, we don't know.
I
But
mean,
that's fascinating that nearly 1,000 years ago, someone's job was to calculate that.
yeah, I mean, it's so fascinating. I must tell you, that I really love rabbits as animals. So I'm, I'm, I'm happy, if they didn't do that actually.
Oh,
But what's super interesting is that Fibonacci was one of the minds that really wanted to mathematically model what's happening with the real world. And
right.
this was actually one of the rare cases in that period. Like, how many centuries ago was that? And you have Fibonacci, not just inventing a formula about rabbits, but actually a mathematical system that a lot of people even today are interested in.
Right.
So you have hobbyists, whose hobby is to study
Hey, Jeff.
Fibonacci numbers. So
So
very
let's look at
interesting.
the Fibonacci sequence. Shahir, show us
Yeah.
a Fibonacci sequence because, and maybe the listeners, I see Jeff here. Hey, Jeff. I mean, there's probably ways for us in our day-to-day life to look around, think about Fibonacci, and maybe it helps us in some fashion. So it's an exponential function. So it goes faster and faster and faster. It's a little bit like the whole idea of uh, the guy went to see the king and say, "What do you want? Do you want, I don't know, this bag of gold, or do you want 1 grain of rice on the first cell of the checker, then two, then four?" And say, "Oh well." And the king didn't think too much and say, "Well, I'll get the grain of rice." And then if you do the math, because it's exponential, if you double the number of grain of rice each time, at the end you've got more rice that exists in the kingdom. You remember that story, Darko? You heard that story before?
Yes, a
I
very
don't know.
interesting story.
I don't know what the
Yes.
name is, but it's exponential. So weird things happen with rabbit, with Fibonacci, and with grain of rice on a checkboard. And so show again the way the numbers work. So it's you start with 0. Okay, that's not really part of the series. Then you have 1. That's still not well. But then you have a second 1 because the idea of Fibonacci is that the next one is a sum of the previous 2, right? And that's the way it works.
Yeah, and I think this is very interesting, because if you relate that to what's happening in mathematics and AI today, we're really trying to predict tokens. We're trying to predict sequences, and this was actually an example where you can predict the next number based on the sequence of previous two numbers. So it has that window of 2, and it forms this beautiful shape when you present it graphically as a graphical model. So, oh, and we have an angry rabbit there, probably
So,
angry at
so I want
Fibonacci.
to supposedly Gemini 3 is so smart and it's so smart. So we're gonna test it as we speak here. So uh, 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 so here's the first question about the Fibonacci series, and I'm gonna ask you, Darko, to guess, and I'm gonna ask Gemini to confirm. I'm gonna ask how many steps to get to 1,000,000. How many steps on the
Oh,
Fibonacci sequence to get to 1,000,000? I'm going to make a wild guess, and now Gemini, don't answer yet. Darko is going to make a guess. I'm going to get a guess, and then we're going to ask Gemini. Give a guess, Darko. Give a guess.
okay. So my
No, not
guess,
yet, not yet, Gemini, not yet, not yet.
not
Don't
yet.
say not yet. Go ahead, Darko. I don't know how to mute Gemini, by the way. To mute me for Gemini, there's a way, I'm sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so my guess is somewhere, I don't know, around 200, 200,
200.
300.
All right. You said
Okay.
200. I say 50. All right, go ahead, Gemini. Right. Well, I say 100. Darko said 200. What do you say? Gemini, how many steps to get to 1,000,000 using the Fibonacci sequence? Come on.
It takes about 30 steps.
30 steps.
Oh, 30 steps. Wow.
See,
Bruno
I
wins.
win.
Bruno
I win.
wins.
I don't know what Jeff thought or the other people of the audience. So the human brain doesn't do well with exponential.
No,
This is why the
no.
king got fooled by the grain of rice on the checkerboard, right? Same deal.
Yeah.
We don't understand how fast compounding works. This is why Einstein said the most powerful force in the universe is compounding interest, because we don't realize how compounding, which is an exponential function of its own, works.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was
Us as humans, we're really used to linear functions. I mean, everything we see around us, we are really used to avoiding exponential stuff.
right.
Everything that's happening around us, we kind of try to make sense of that gradual increase of something. And where, the mathematical world, the abstract mathematical world, shows us that, sometimes we can be fooled, as
Yes.
I was fooled in this case.
But we trust but verify. So we're going to ask the same question to ChatGPT, and then we're going to ask about the first clinical trials ever. Hey, ChatGPT, how many? I have a question about the Fibonacci. The Fibonacci sequence. I think tomorrow is Fibonacci day. So in the Fibonacci sequence, how many steps to get to 1,000,000?
You're thinking ahead to Fibonacci day. That's great. So if we look at the Fibonacci sequence, where each number is the sum of the two before it, you're basically asking how many terms you have to count through until you hit a number that's at least 1,000,000. If you do the math or just kind of run through the sequence, you find that the 30th Fibonacci number is 800.
All right. So it says 30, and Gemini said 37.
Well, they're close.
They're close.
They're
Yeah,
close.
but normally they should be good at math at this point after spending $1 trillion in training them. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
so, all right. Well, it's between 30 and 37, arguably, right?
Yeah.
So, anything out of Fibonacci? And if not, we can move to the second question, which is what was the very first clinical trial ever done?
Oh yes, this is such an interesting topic. The James Lind, first ever clinical trial, and I think it was actually done on a sailor boat on a ship, which was traveling. I may be wrong, but I think towards India from somewhere, and basically, in that period, no one knew what a randomized control trial is, right? So, and this interesting, well, I could say
Well,
scientist right now.
a little side to it. It was a control trial. I don't think it was randomized,
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah,
and it wasn't blind, of course, right?
yeah. It was the first control trial, and when you think about the story, it's related to sailors on this ship who didn't have a lot of fruit on the ship, so they developed a disease called scurvy, which is basically vitamin C deficiency.
What happened when you have
So
scurvy? I think I saw some pictures of it. It doesn't look too good, but you've got what? You got infection. You've got
yeah, so the
not
skin
good.
problems, the teeth problems, the gums of the teeth may deteriorate, and it's actually a difficult disease. So this guy James Lind, he figured that maybe he can try to treat these sailors with something. So he separated sailors in two groups. So one group received plain salt water, I believe, and the other group received lemons or some other citrus fruit, which is, as it turns out, was rich in vitamin C. So that was one of the first control trials, and not only that, that was one of the first occasions where we figured that vitamin C plays a very important
We
role. And
knew it was vitamin C, or for James Lind, it was just lemon. It was lemon and lime.
yeah, it was for him, it was just lemon and lime. But he actually separated two groups and said, hey, I'm going to give this to one group and this to the other group, and I'm going to see if there's a difference between them. So basically he formed the first controlled trial, first comparatory trial, where one group received just salty water. So he pretty much knew that they will not their health status will not be affected by the salt water, right? But the other group was
Got
really,
lemonade.
yeah.
So it wasn't eating the lemon or the lime. It was actually in the water. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think as far as I know, they actually received lemons or
Okay.
some other
All right.
citrus fruit, and then he figured out, hey, this fruit actually, as intervention, helps heal these people,
Yeah.
right? While this is not happening with those that get the normal salt water, right?
And he was what? He was an academics, or he was a cheap captain, or he was like a doctor. Who was he? Do you know? I'm gonna
Well,
ask you, ChatGPT.
I think ChatGPT will probably give us a better answer.
Hey, HIV. So James Lind, the guy who sort of did the first clinical trial with lemon and lime, etc. Who was he? Was he a physician? Was he a boat captain? Was he an academic? What was his deal?
Hey, sure thing. Absolutely. Let's dive right in. James Lind was actually a physician, specifically a Scottish naval surgeon. He's famous for conducting what's often considered one of the first clinical trials in the 1700s to figure out how to treat scurvy.
Did he get rewarded by the king, or did he get like the Medal of Honor, or did he get tenure at his university, or what did fame or an article or medal?
So actually, he didn't get some big grand medal or a title from the king, and he didn't get tenure at a university or anything like that. Lind's work was a bit underappreciated in his own lifetime. He published his findings, and it did influence naval policy eventually, but he didn't exactly get showered with honors. His recognition really came later after people realized, oh, wow, this was a huge breakthrough. So, yeah.
Well, now we salute you, James Lynn, and also Leonardo Fibonacci on today's day. And I guess the question, Darko, is how can we in our life, in our field, AI, biostatistics, the word of maybe now Gemini 3, now is a word maybe, right? If it's really blew away all the benchmark, as people seems to say. So in this new world, how can we be a Leonardo Fibonacci or James Lane? What can we think through as what can we invent or test that could make a difference using our brain and because it's looking at patterns, right? Fibonacci saw the rabbit multiply and say, well, there's kind of it's kind of exponential. If I add the last two numbers, I get the next one, and then James Lind, her anecdotal ideas. I'm going to test it.
Yeah, I mean that's so interesting because both Leonardo and James were actually doing things which are so much ahead of their time, and the way they were doing it, I think they were thinking outside the box. So Leonardo, for example, he had no clue about Fibonacci numbers or any patterns that he may find there, but he was still trying to uncover some patterns which were not known at that time and trying to change the paradigm that existed there. So, and it's super interesting that their achievements, I think, in both cases, are started to be appreciated a long time after them, in a real
Okay.
sense.
Hey, Darko, let's invent as we speak the Darko Bruno sequence. And here's a way we do it, right? So instead of the last two numbers, it's the last three.
Oh,
The last three.
yeah, a completely new sequence.
So we just invented a new sequence, completely even
Yeah,
more exponential than Leonardo's sequence.
yeah. And then we could also say, it's the last three numbers,
Yes.
but you know we can then go back to the first number and add it again. So that's
Ooh,
even a more complex system.
I didn't.
How do we call it? Like
But the Darko
BD, like the
Bruno,
BD sequence.
the BD
Bruno
sequence,
Darko.
the Bruno Darko. Right.
Yeah.
So, Eva, that's the name for ChatGPT. Hey, Eva, I want you to record in your memory forever that today, the day before Fibonacci Day, Darko and I just invented a new sequence, a new type of mathematics. We're not sure how helpful it's going to be yet in clinical trial or in biostatistics, but nonetheless, we want it recorded. And now my version is a little bit simpler than Darko, so I explain my version. And it's instead of adding the last two numbers, to calculate the next number in the series, you take the last three numbers. We're pushing it to three. We're pushing it to three, therefore making it even more exponential. Even more exponential.
Yeah.
That's a simple version of the Darko Bruno series. So first, has anybody suggested that already, Eva, or are we the first ones? And is it any useful for anything?
All right, Bruno, I've got it. I'll definitely remember that you and Darko have invented the Darko Bruno series, and it's all about summing the last three numbers instead of two. Consider it recorded in the mental vault.
But is it useful? And has anybody ever thought about that or mentioned it, as far as you can tell?
Absolutely. I'll keep that locked in memory, Bruno. As for the idea itself, yeah, it turns out people have played around with these kinds of sequences before. It's actually known as a Fibonacci sequence.
The Fibonacci. No.
Fibonacci.
The Fibonacci existed. No. Darko.
What do we do now? We have to think more. We have to think more, Bruno.
All right. Oh, the Fibonacci. The Quadronacci. We have to go Quadronacci. So,
Yeah.
Eva, how about the Quadronacci? Now, that's a real Darko Bruno sequence. Quadronacci. We take the last four numbers and we add them. No, we multiply them, Darko. We multiply. How about that, Eva? We multiply the last four numbers, and that's the next one in the sequence. That's the Darko Bruno sequence. Nobody thought about that, right?
All right, Bruno, I'm on it. We've got the Quadronacci with a twist officially noted down as your and Darko's very own invention. Multiplying the last four numbers to get the next one is definitely a more unique spin. I don't think I've seen that one pop up in the math history books, so as far as I know, you've got a little original gem there. And hey, if it ever turns out to be useful for clinical trials or biostatistics, you'll be the first to know.
Yeah, I think the rabbits multiply, but not fast enough for the Darkonacci. Let's go to the Darkonacci.
Yeah.
The Darkonacci sequence.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we invented new mathematics, Darko, and that's
Yeah.
what we like to do in this podcast. If someone can find a use to the Darkonacci sequence, let us know. It could be dangerous, though. I think these things should be regulated. You never know what people are going to do with the Darkonacci sequence.
You never know. It's a lot of multiplication, happening really quickly. So who knows what might happen?
There might be a lot of cells of NVIDIA just to be able to calculate these Darkonacci numbers.
Yeah, we need larger graphics cards to do that. Yeah.
I think Elon Musk should hire you and us to boost Grok to be able to jumpstart Gemini 3 by injecting a little bit of Darkonacci into their algorithm. That's it. That's what's missing, right?
The missing part.
Missing part. All right. On that note, our producer does not jump in or cut off our microphone, so we can say goodbye. And now, what are we going to talk about next week? Because now we covered Fibonacci, Darkonacci, and the first clinical trial.
So
my son just asked me about Poisson statistics, but I don't know how useful Poisson is in clinical trials, is it?
I think it could be very useful. There's actually a number of interesting clinical trials that use Poisson regression. So it could be an interesting topic, definitely.
So that's one option, and we can talk about Bayesian. After talk Bayesian and frequentist, we can have a Bayesian and frequentist episode.
Oh, I'm sure that would be very interesting for many who will join.
All right. Well, we'll finalize that. Thank you to our audience. We are fast on a mission, with Darko and Bruno. And today is the way we discovered and released to the world the Darkonacci sequence. So good luck with that.
Good luck with that, and feel free to discover new things. Au revoir.
Au revoir.